The security footage from camera 47B had become Stain's nightly obsession. Every evening at 11:47 p.m., she appeared a figure too fragile for the harsh streets of New Mumbai's commercial district. Her name, he would later learn, was Fiza. She wasn't human. That much was obvious from the first night Stein reviewed the footage. The slight iridescence of her skin under the lights, the way her movements seemed just a fraction too fluid, too precise, these were the telltale signs. But what struck him most wasn't her alien nature. It was the exhaustion in her posture as she curled up beside the shuttered electronics shop, using a tattered blanket that looked like it had been scavenged from a dumpster. Stein worked the night shift as a security analyst for the Mumbai Metropolitan Surveillance Network. His job was to monitor unusual activity, flag potential crimes, and keep the city safe while it slept. But this girl, this alien girl, didn't fit any protocol. She wasn't causing trouble. She wasn't stealing. She was simply surviving. Night after night, he watched her routine. She would arrive from the eastern corridor, always looking over her shoulder. She'd settle into the same spot, pull the blanket tight around her shoulders, and rest her head against the metal shutter. Sometimes she ate something from a small bag, scraps, probably. Sometimes she just stared at the empty street with eyes that held stories Stein couldn't begin to imagine. On the seventh night, Stein made a decision that would violate every company policy. He left his monitoring station, grabbed his jacket, and headed to the location. The address was burned into his memory. Shop 47, Naramon Commercial Complex, Sector 12. The November air was cold as he approached. He could see her from a distance, a small bundle against the massive shutter. His footsteps echoed in the empty street, and he saw her tense, preparing to flee. "Wait," Stein called softly, raising his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you. I've seen you on the cameras." Fiza's eyes, larger than human eyes, with an amber tint that caught the light, fixed on him with a mixture of fear and resignation. She didn't run. Perhaps she was too tired. Perhaps she had nowhere left to go. "I have food," Stein said, pulling out the sandwich and thermos he'd brought from home. "And I just want to know if you're okay." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in accented but clear Hindi, she spoke. "Why do you care?" The question hung between them like smoke. Why did he care? Stein had asked himself the same thing 100 times while watching those recordings. "Because everyone deserves better than sleeping on cold concrete," he finally answered. That night, Stein learned her story. Fiza had come to Earth 3 months ago as part of a cultural exchange program, one of dozens of young aliens from the Kepler colonies who had been promised education and opportunity. But the organization sponsoring her had been a fraud, a scheme that collected fees and abandoned their charges once they arrived. With no legal documentation, no money, and no understanding of Earth's complex bureaucratic systems, Fiza had become invisible, just another lost soul in a city of millions. She had tried to find work, but without proper papers, no one would hire her. She had sought help from authorities, but language barriers and xenophobic attitudes had turned her away. The shelter system was overcrowded, and the few alien-friendly ones had waiting lists months long. "I was an engineer on my world," Fiza said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I designed water purification systems. I thought Earth would be a chance to learn new technologies, to help both our peoples." She laughed bitterly. "Now I'm an expert in which dumpsters have the best discarded food." Stein felt anger rising in his chest, not at her, but at the systems that had failed her, at the people who had exploited her hope. "This isn't right," he said. "You shouldn't have to live like this." Should and is are very different things. Fiza replied with the wisdom of someone who had learned hard lessons quickly. But Stein wasn't ready to accept that. Over the following weeks, he became her advocate. He reached out to immigrant rights organizations, contacted journalists who specialized in exposing fraudulent schemes, and connected with a lawyer who took pro bono cases. He used his security clearance to document the fraud organization's patterns, showing how they had abandoned dozens of aliens just like Fiza. The case gained media attention. The story of the girl from the security camera, as one news outlet called it, resonated with people across the city. Donations poured in. The fraudulent organization was shut down, and its operators arrested. More importantly, Fiza's case opened doors for other abandoned exchange students. New policies were implemented, oversight committees formed, and legitimate pathways for alien immigrants were strengthened. 3 months after their first meeting, Stein watched as Fiza walked into her new apartment, a small studio, but it was hers. She had a job interview lined up with a water treatment facility that was eager to learn from her expertise. She had papers, legal status, and a future. "I never understood humans," Fiza said as they stood in her new living room. On my world, we were taught you were individualistic, cold, only concerned with your own kind. Some of us are, Stein admitted, but some of us remember that we're all just people trying to make it through the night. Some of us see someone sleeping beside a shuttered shop and can't just walk away. Fiza smiled, the first genuine smile Stein had seen from her. Your cameras see everything, but you looked beyond what they showed. You saw me that night. As Stein returned to his monitoring station, he pulled up camera for 7B1 last time. The spot beside the electronics shop was empty. The tattered blanket was gone. For the first time in months, no one would sleep there tonight, and somehow, the city seemed a little warmer.